How's it going, guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. And today we're going to be going over some more thermal content, but more of an in-depth kind of look. Um, as you can see, and if you follow my Instagram, I'm really into thermal optics. For what I'm trying to do, I think it's better than night vision. It's harder to defeat thermal. In my opinion, it's pretty easy to defeat night vision. But yeah, not going down that rabbit hole. Got the computer set up over here as per usual, and we're just gonna get into it. So I've broken this video into some sections just so I don't ramble, like normal. I've broken up into active, passive, the cons, and how to defeat thermal. So the first thing that you think of when you think of active in regard to thermal, more than likely you're thinking about scanning. And you'll constantly hear people say, yeah, this thermal unit has a detection range of 2,500 yards or 1,500 meters or whatever. So right off the bat, that's extremely far, like extremely far. And if you're just trying to, scan for coyotes or pigs, other varmint animals, inside of realistically 200 to 300 yards at max, that's no problem. You can just turn your head and you can see something pretty easily.
So this is taken in the morning during like an early dew point, kind of just a very humid environment. And as you guys can see, differentiating things here can be slightly difficult just because of the temperature that's very consistent. The other thing you'll notice is with humidity, it makes everything kind of that same opaque gray even after the sensor refreshes. You guys can see cars go by there, but smaller objects and even smaller thermal signatures hide very well.
The next section is something that is underneath the umbrella of active, but is more along the lines of things that you're not really looking for in regard to heat signature. Things like, engine blocks, residual heat from the sun, things like that. Things that are kind of out of place, but you're not really scanning for them. You're more scanning for shapes of bodies. You're not really taking in the other information that the thermal is picking up. But like I'll show you in some other clips, they are extremely important. Just because it's not, the focus of what you're trying to look for doesn't mean that the information that the thermal sensor is picking up isn't relevant either. So next section, pretty easy. Cons. First one, we're gonna get it out the way. The first thing that everybody thinks of when they think of thermal, you can't see through glass. Blah 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 blah. Everybody knows that. Like, whenever somebody says that's the first con of thermal, either one, they don't have night vision, or two, they don't use thermal enough to know any other cons. So they're just regurgitating information.
Okay, as you guys can see, the thermal is very good for detecting thermal signatures on a vehicle. So if something's been running recently, it's very easy to tell versus something like this that's been stagnant for a while. That's one of the big benefits there. But what you're going to notice when you come across to parts of the vehicle is you're not going to be able to see inside windows. These are basically just mirrors for reflection. So if you're trying to get any information on anybody that's in the vehicle or if it's occupied at all, it's going to be impossible to tell because all you're seeing is a reflection of the outside. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of the day or not, or how it is. The other thing is if you're trying to gather information on like a license plate number, say you're trying to relay to somebody that you know, this is not censored out. These license plates, as you guys can see, are just completely blacked out. Due to the material and how they're made, there is no difference in the thermal signature. So that's definitely a downside.
The things that I think about in regard to an actual thermal con, um, you can't communicate with IR. So like you got no IR laser to point at stuff. So
All right, guys, eyes open. I'm gonna paint these guys with the infrared so we're all on the same page. Everybody got this guy?
Roger.
Yeah, I got him.
This guy?
Got him.
This guy?
Got him.
Got him.
How about that guy?
3.
Look at these guys. It's like kids playing hide and seek.
Guys got draw them in.
Draw them in. They cannot see you. We have night vision.
They don't.
Turn the lights off now.
you have to be verbal. There is no like IR like laser pointer and like, hey, look over there. None of that with thermal. You can't read. So if you only have a thermal unit, like I do here, I don't have a night vision unit. If I was walking around and I needed to read a street sign, boom, you have to use white light. You can't just IR flood something. So thermal cannot read unless it is a 3D decal. If it's flat, you can't read it. Like, for example, it says Star Wars The Mandalorian. Thermal couldn't read that. Another con, I guess a con more so along the lines of like a heads up or a limitation or something like that, whatever the right word is. This sensor can burn just like a nod can. I flipped the unit up how it is now, but I didn't have the cover on it. And I was walking around maybe 45 seconds and you'll see this little picture. But I had to end up recalibrating the unit for that to go away. So heads up, don't freak out. It even says it in the manual. It's not permanent. It's just essentially etched into the sensor because it's amplifying heat signatures. So it saw that heat signature while my unit was flipped up and it just etched it into the sensor. But you essentially just press the power button, recalibrate it, or turn the unit off, turn it back on, and it will go away. But don't leave your unit staring at the sun all day either. So, just food for thought. In this last section, how to defeat thermal. Like I was saying in the beginning, thermal is a lot harder to defeat than IR because with night vision, you can move slowly, and if you have on the right clothing and you're not backlighting yourself, you can still move around and do what you need to do, just at a different pace. With thermal, if you're really actually trying to defeat it, you need to have something in between you and the sensor of the thermal that is significant enough to block the sensor. And that means like extremely dense canopy brush. Some extremely dense trees or bushes.
Where's the show come from? Hey, where are you going, Ugly? That's kind of ugly. Yeah, we see you. You see us? What you doing? It's crazy. He's not scared at all. Hey, where'd you go? Oh, there you go.
Or like some sort of blanket that's stationary because you can't walk around, with a blanket like this. So thermal is a lot harder to defeat unless you're jumping into a body of water.
Okay, so the biggest enemy to thermal is honestly water. So as you guys can see, have a very strong thermal signature on my hand here. Very easy to tell exactly what it is. And below me is my pool, so a large body of water. As it sits, it looks like a giant reflection of gray nothingness. So if I were to take my hand and place it in this pool, what you guys are going to see is I become effectively invisible to this thermal. There is nothing there, and if I submerge my whole body, I'm in fact just gone from thermal's view. So if you're around a body of water or you have animals that are in water, it can make things extremely difficult to recognize a thermal signature.
But to really defeat thermal, you're really just trying to not be picked up by the sensor in the first place. With night vision, you can pretty much blend in with your background if you know what you're doing. With thermal, you kind of can't do that. So now I'm going to splice in some, I'm going to splice in some videos and I'm just going to narrate over them. Some of the clips are from Grantham. I'll make sure I credit him. Some of the videos are from this really underrated channel, this German gentleman. Yeah, so the other gentleman is Rippercon. I'll make sure I tag him below and throw up all the thumbnails. But with thermal, it's much more different than just defeating the eye. That's because that's camouflage. This is an entirely different layer. It's like going from 3D to 4D or 2D to 3D. Because in Rippercon's videos, you're going to see in a lot of his side-by-side clips, right out the gate, he already defeated your eyeballs because you can't see him. But when you see the side-by-side thermal comparison, you're like, well, he's right there. But if you didn't have that thermal overlay up, you wouldn't know he was there. So, yeah, that's really it. I just wanted to shed some more light on actually having some real-world use behind thermal. Well, real-world use. I just night hunt behind my unit, because a lot of the things that people say is like, oh, you want to have a PVS 14 if you're going to run an RH25 because running this is going to make you nauseous. Like whenever I hear stuff like that, I just immediately dismiss what they say, and that just means they don't have enough time behind the unit. Just turn your brightness down if you're going to run this as your main navigation. Turn the brightness down so you don't get eye strain. It is not that difficult. And get time behind the unit. Like, this stuff isn't going to make you throw up. It is not that crazy. It's just a screen. You already look at your phone screen for hours on end while you're supposed to be going to sleep. This is the same screen. It's a digital screen. This is no different. So how is this nauseous or nauseating? But when you're laying in bed looking at your phone screen, that's not nauseating. So actually get some time behind your unit. Stop believing everything you hear on the internet. And yeah, and get out there and train. And for the people that say, you know, oh, I don't have the money to drop on a thermal unit, maybe sell those duplicate 16-inch red dot guns you have. Stop drinking beer for 6 months. Get your priorities in order if you actually want to go down this route of expanding your capability. And then you'll have the funds to actually buy a thermal unit. And it doesn't even have to be this one. You can buy a 384 unit, which is almost half the price. Like, let's stop looking for excuses. If you want the capability, you have to sacrifice something to gain the capability. Same thing for kit, same thing for working out, same thing for anything. So, but yeah, pretty quick on today. I really just wanted to get on here and kind of continue the exposure of other things. There's more to firearms than, you know, red dot versus LPVO. There's more to firearms than night vision versus thermal. Like, there's the exposure and the training aspect of it. Because like I always say, if you're not training with the things you have, you might as well not even have it, because you already suck with it. Because you're believing, not you, but you in general, you're believing people when they say digital screens are nauseating if that's your primary navigation source, or the only con of thermal is it can't see through nods. Like, so evaluate your sources. But rambling.
Take a look at me standing in a forest with like normal clothing. A camouflage uniform is always only a base for camouflage. Of course, a backpack and tactical gear has got a different thermal signature, but the arms and the legs remain almost the same. Even with some vegetation in front of me, you can see how easy it is to spot me because of my thermal signature. You can see the fabric which is closer to my body will heat up more than the fabric of the pockets, for example. Now let's try the ghillie suit. The ghillie suit was placed on the ground for some time, so you can see it's still relatively cold, but it will heat up as soon as it's on my body. Check the legs, you will see they are now hot. And the back is the same. At first, let's try to hide without any vegetation on the ghillie suit. So here, not well hidden, you are able to find me, and with the thermal camera, even easier to find me. Now let's hide behind some bushes, but with a loophole, so I can see the camera. But with the thermal camera, it's also quite easy to find me. When we now take a look at the ghillie suit. So on the hood there's some material which is quite far away from my body. Also on my butt there is material hanging loose. But on the shoulders it's touching my body, and also on the legs it's really close to my body heat. And also if you look at my hands, they are super bright shining. You can avoid heating up by insulation, which will be annoying in summer. You can add some ventilation, or let's try to cool it down with water. So here we just spray some water on the ghillie suit. The water cools down the material almost immediately. But of course you cannot always carry water around and cool down your ghillie suit from time to time. But yeah, let's try it out how it looks. On the top of my head I don't have that much loose hanging fabric, so yeah, my body heat heats up the water and the wet camouflage net on my head. But you can clearly see the wet material makes a pattern. So let's see how I can hide after just one spot. The water clearly helps to change the signature, but overall it's still possible to see me, especially when I'm moving around. When I get closer to the ground and there's some more vegetation in front of me, it will be harder to spot me. So indeed, we have some camouflage. And camouflage is not invisibility. Yeah, and underneath the ghillie suit, I'm still hot, and here you can see how the material of the ghillie suit is completely heating up. Now I lay down super flat, head against the ground and behind some vegetation. But as soon as I move my head to see the camera, I'm still giving away some of my heat signature. And this is still a super big improvement compared to the ghillie suit without any vegetation. And also in this video, the distance is super small. In a military environment, usually the distance should be bigger. Of course, it's not always bigger, but it should be. Now let's turn around and sit down, and you can see the cold grass and the wet burlap helps to really reduce the signature I'm giving away, and especially the hood, which is relatively far away from the body, cools down. But the fabric in the front and on the arms is still super hot. Also here you can see the pattern, and the wet burlap and the grass on the ghillie suit is even colder than the environment. Now let's go on a bit further distance and hiding behind some vegetation. So yeah, still visible. Especially when there is movement, it's quite easy to identify a silhouette like this as a human being. But now let's try the quick tip with the emergency blanket, and let's see how it looks in the terminal. Both sides of the emergency blanket can reflect the signature of the environment, so even the bright shining side can give camouflage in the thermal spectrum. So when you are in the forest, it can work quite well. When you have clear sky above you, it can be super black and super white and give away your position, but all in all, it will hide your signature. But again, as soon as you touch the material, it will heat up and you can see the heat signature again, but still hiding the signature quite well.
Drones are not going away.
And here, this is really just me using a different color palette. Scrolling through all the different ones because I like white hot for spotting. I like black hot for navigation. But it's all, at the end of the day, it's all shooter's preference like anything else. But I'm just looking around. My neighbors, bitch ass dogs. They bark at everything, but yeah, that's just me giving them a hard time because they know I don't like them black hot. And that right there, that's an example of why I don't like black hot for spotting, because you saw how the dogs kind of blended in. I like white hot for spotting and engaging, black hot for navigation. But that's just me. Pick whatever color palette you feel the most confident behind. Red hot. A lot of people like that one. That's color, predator shit right there. And then white hot. Obviously, white hot's the easiest to spot / target with. But yeah, more passive information here. Obviously, we can see that the asphalt is retaining heat. Cars are driving on it, transferring heat. It's probably still got some heat from the sun from earlier in the day. That kind of thing. Those are some rocks at the base of the tree retaining heat. Some trees. Road. You see that car or that truck up there? We saw a glimpse of those tires in the back of that vehicle. There's my house. Fire hydrant, made of metal, it's retaining heat. But yeah, all this is passive information because it's, we're kind of just looking around passively, no pun intended. Kind of seeing what's possible, what's detectable. I mean, we can see the freaking moon, so I thought that was pretty cool right there, honestly. I didn't think it'd be able to pick up that. You can see some clouds. More clouds. Trees. Some visual examples of everything I was talking about earlier in the video. But I'm sure by now the point has gotten across and you understand what I was saying. And the same thing with the lights on the front of my car. The bottom sets, they give off a good amount of heat, so that's why you can see them. The top, it's kind of a dull illumination, so you can't really see them. Just stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, so what's happening here is you guys are seeing how finite the focus is on the front of the thermal unit itself. It's why it's always important to make it reachable, especially if you're using it in like a weapon mounted application. But here, obviously we can tell this is a thermal signature. I'm only a few feet away from this animal, so it's super easy to tell. However, if I want that crisp detail, I have to focus in specifically where it's at. And obviously we can see this is a house cat now. And you guys can see that range is about 3 to 5 feet up close, and it stops real far at distance. So you can set it for something kind of as an in-between all around focus. But if you really want that finer detail and that object identification, just remember that you're gonna have to focus specifically on what it is. So as you guys can see, once you get back out of focus, it's super hard to tell what you're looking at.
Thermal has the firearms industry kind of in a chokehold right now. Everybody and their mama has got an RH25 on their rifle, myself included. But what you don't see really ever is anyone using them. I mean, I can speak to myself and the few people that I know I use mine. But I know a lot of people just kind of buy one just to say they have one. They baby their equipment, they never use it, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, when push comes to shove and they might actually need to use it, they don't know how to use it. They don't know what the unit can and can't do. You know, they can't walk under nods or a thermal or things like that. So, you know, if my channel can, you know, help you push yourself to use your equipment, then I'm all for it, because I know I'm using my equipment. But yeah, quick little outro. Make sure you comment, share this video with a RH25 user that you know, because I guarantee you know somebody that hasn't said something that was covered in this video. We need to be pushing great training. We need to be pushing reliable information and education in the industry. I'm glad you found my channel, because I will always be an unbiased source and I only speak from my personal experience. I do not regurgitate information. I only speak on what I know. So that is my stamp right there. If you hear me say it, stamp sound effect, that means I myself have came across it personally, not just read it online or read it in a comment section. So yeah, like this video, comment down below if you thought this was helpful. Comment down below if you've ran into any other, you know, thermal limitations that maybe I didn't cover in this video. Or comment down below your favorite color palette that you like taking out coyotes with. Hit that like button, hit that share button, comment down below. Tell me something that you thought I might have missed. Until next time, peace guys.